All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now, the Liberal Party Quebec is calling for a reassessment of the province's relationship with Amazon following the closure of its warehouses. It's left nearly 3,500 families in uncertainty. You know, yesterday on the program, we spoke to someone who drives for Amazon, will be out of a job on February 8th. He told us about how he loved his job, that actually the pay was great, really liked working for Amazon. And all that will end for him in just over a week. Let's head over now to Frederic Beauchemin. He's the official opposition critic on economic matters. And of course, he represents the riding of Marguerite-Bourgeoys. Monsieur Beauchemin, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So how do you respond to a behemoth like Amazon that, you know, I know we could talk about things you buy from Amazon, but on the back end, AWS, Amazon Web Services, it runs so many websites, including government websites. How do you retaliate or respond to a company like Amazon?
We definitely need to reassess the level of implication that we have with our contracts with Amazon, for sure. Absolutely. As you know, Amazon is basically half of its business is package delivery. Right now, that's going to be done by third parties, and the other half is basically data hosting. Well, we have $100 million, and if not more, of contracts with the Quebec government does with Amazon. There's Microsoft that also provides us with data hosting. There's a Quebec-based company called Cofomo that provides us with data hosting. There's a British company called Vantage that also does the same thing. So when these contracts come to expiration, we should actually make sure that we prioritize a Quebec-based solution for data hosting. That, myself, I think, is probably the best avenue going forward for security reasons and to make sure that we promote our own economic advantage first.
Now, to get there, I think what you're trying to say is also that Amazon has done something wrong here. And one of the things that I want to get to is, in your estimation, what did Amazon do? Because it's easy. Well, they fired people. Okay, I get it. They fired people, but they would say, "Well, we have reasons. We're a business. We got to make. We got to profit margins. Yada yada yada. All that stuff." Mm-hmm. So, what do you think that Amazon did here that is egregious, that goes beyond just day to day business financial decisions?
As I said, they do have two businesses. One is the package delivery, where they decided to let go of 3,500 individuals. We totally think it's terrible for these families to be told that short notice what's coming up. Hopefully, the business aspect that needs to still be occurring will be occurring with local businesses, which they will be then requiring people and new people and additional people to exercise and to actually make those deliveries. So hopefully these people will be able to find jobs within the subcontractors that Amazon is not going to be using, hopefully. Yeah. But that being said, it's the overall package that we were dealing with. We were dealing with the package delivery and the data sourcing, data hosting aspect of Amazon. So if they decide to close one aspect of their business model, which is not that profitable, and only deal with the profitable aspect, well, obviously, when we made a decision at the government level was for the entire picture. So now we need to reassess the business proposition.
But I guess what I'm trying to get to is, does Quebec have to share some of this blame here? When I'm thinking about Quebec being an environment where businesses can thrive, whether it's the union stuff, everyone's talking about the union stuff. If Quebec is a place where unions have too much power, if Quebec is a place that has too much bureaucracy, if Quebec is a place that has too many onerous laws, and I know our listeners would love for me to point out Bill 96, if we have too many things that add up that say to big corporations, Quebec is not worth it, does any blame fall on us?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm not in disagreement with you in the sense that we know our economic environment is, let's just say, a bit more heavy to carry for a lot of businesses that want to, set up shop here in Quebec. That being said, obviously the present government is just not, doing what it can to make it more optimal. A Liberal Party in power would obviously be more pro-business in terms of making sure that we, create this environment for all businesses in Quebec to be winning, not just picking the winners like the CAQ is doing, but create the environment for all to have a chance to succeed. Obviously, that would be the best environment for us to do business with.
So, I mean, if that's the case, right, should we be looking at Amazon's decision and making some changes here so that there's not a follow-up with another big business that decides to leave?
Well, yes, my reaction is to think about the fact that, we do have businesses in Quebec that are providing data hosting.
Yeah.
Why not give ourselves a chance first? So when these contracts come to expiration, you know what? Yes, pricing is going to be important, obviously, but you know what? Why don't we also add other criteria such as security? Hosting it where? In Quebec. Oh, thank you very much for that. And by the way, Amazon, right? Their
Yeah.
data is they're giving the permission to the U.S. government to look at the data because that's part of the deal with U.S.-based corporations with Trump. And so therefore, do we actually want our data to be readily available for the U.S. government whenever it wants? I think not. That's the reason why, these things are also part of the mix. I think pricing is important, obviously, but security, making sure we promote our economy first, these are what the Liberal Party of Quebec will be promoting going forward.
I want to get your take on one thing, but I have to let you go. We're with Frederic Beauchemin, Liberal MNA. And there's a piece in Journal de Montréal this morning talking about memberships of the various political parties in Quebec. And it shows that the Quebec Liberal Party has reached a historic low just as your leadership race is beginning. Apparently, you're at about 10,000 to 13,000 members. It's a quarter of what it was not so long ago when Philippe Couillard was premier. How do you change that for the party? How do you get back to those glory days where you've got tens of thousands of members not struggling to break the double digits?
We need to talk about what matters to Quebecers. The economy is obviously issue number one for a lot of Quebecers. When we're able to actually, how do we are going to be able to pay our bills? How do we grow the economy? How do we face up to inflation? How do we deal with Trump? We need to be addressing Quebecers with matters that are the most important to them. That's what we need to do. I think the leadership race is going to provide us with an opportunity to actually have more microphones in front of Liberal candidates wanting to be leader of this party. I think Pablo Rodriguez is going to be able to augment the tent. That's the reason why I'm supporting Pablo in this race. Mm-hmm. I think that that's probably the best adventure for us going forward to actually add members. And that's, hopefully we'll be able to go back to the numbers of earlier years for sure.
Yeah. And I know you're supporting Pablo Rodriguez, and I'm just wondering if the word liberal, right, and attachments to the federal Liberal Party that is not very popular right now, if that may be a drag. And, for the guy that you're backing, Pablo Rodriguez, being such a key a part of the Justin Trudeau Liberals for so long, could that not be a drag to that hope of bringing those party numbers up?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, obviously the Liberal brand is the Liberal brand of the Parti Liberal du Québec, the Liberal Party of Quebec. We are standing for business development. We are standing for rights and freedoms for all Quebecers. This is something that it doesn't come anywhere near what the PQ has to offer or the CAQ has to offer. Obviously, I understand the confusion with maybe confusing us with what the Liberals in Ottawa are doing, but it's two different entities. Absolutely two different entities with history in terms of building the modern Quebec that we know now today, 175 years almost of presence in this province. The Liberal Party of Quebec has a strong history here. There's no doubt about that. As it relates to making sure that, whatever happens in Ottawa, while Pablo was in Ottawa, he was, obviously part of a caucus that decided to go in the direction that they wanted to go. And that's the way it is when you're in a caucus. You go with what the leader says. But as an independent, he voted against a check for $250 that the Liberals wanted to promote. He also voted against the idea of the TPS, the GST tax break, which was silly. So, obviously, as it relates to the economic development, he's wearing the same suit, basically, that I've been promoting, which is we have to make sure our finances are well balanced, and we need to have an economy of the future, which creates more intellectual property per capita and make our productivity grow exponentially, which is essential for us as it relates to our standard of living going forward.
Mr. Beauchemin, we got to leave it there. Merci beaucoup, et à la prochaine.
Thank you so much, guys.
Frederic Beauchemin is the MNA for Marguerite-Bourgeoys and the official opposition critic for economic matters.